to another episode of The Wealth Whisperer. Today, I was inspired by a conversation that I had with my husband recently. We went for a walk and we were having a chat about what having become financially independent, financially free all those years ago has really, really meant to us. And I came up with a fantastic title today, which is, do you want to be flash or free? Because when you are working within the wealth creation industry, regardless of this type of strategy, whether that's property, forex trading, cryptocurrencies, internet marketing, stock market trading, doesn't matter which strategy you use, there's an awful lot of flash and bling. And people do get lured in by the advertising, the marketing that goes out there. And no doubt that these strategies do work, 100%. They do work, but they work for some people. And it may be that one strategy is better for you than another, but it might be a question of having to have a journey through these types of things. So today's conversation is a conversation around what is most important to you. Is it the flashbang? Is it the big, houses and flash cars and going on holidays and et cetera, which is luring you in? Or is it something perhaps a bit deeper? And how on earth do you find that thing that's going to help you get there? Okay. So without further ado, let's really crack on. So I found that it can be quite dangerous to keep up with the Joneses, to see somebody else and think, yeah, I want to be like them. I want to have the things that they have. In this country, we seem to be a little bit obsessed with comparison. And particularly when it comes to creating wealth for yourself and becoming financially abundant, that it's all too easy to see what somebody else has and want that for yourself and think that that thing is going to enable you to get there. So I'm going to explain throughout this episode exactly what I'm talking about. And towards the end, I'm going to share with you just how you can sort the wheat from the chaff for yourself in terms of what is going to be the right strategy for you to develop your level of wealth and the ability to become financially free. So the other thing there's a little bit of a word of caution here, that in this industry, in the wealth creation industry, that there are some people who will flash the cash, who will drive around in fancy cars and what have you, who are perhaps not quite as they seem. There are definitely people out there who have achieved the level of success that they portray. But it comes down to a level of research. It's a level of understanding. Are those people truly at the place that they portray themselves in the marketing and advertising? That is absolutely crucial. Number one rule that you need to do the research on that. We have a whole module that covers this in our On the Money course. And it's totally vital, really, to you understanding it, that the person or the people or the company that you're going to follow is who they say they are and is going to enable you to get to where you want to get to. Okay. Really, the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, are these things truly important to me? What do I really want? Is it the fancy car? Is it the big house? Is it the ability to travel more, etc., etc.? For some people, it will be the idea of that, and the way that lifestyle looks is very, very, very alluring. Because if you are in a regular career, job, etc., it can feel like it ties you down, and so to have that vision is important. For some people, it might be a sense of having a feeling of a certain sense of status, a certain sense of worth, the ability to flash the cash, the ability to treat their family, to treat their friends, etc., and to be able to enjoy life. And don't get me wrong, this is exactly where we started. In the early days, it was the same for us. We wanted these things. We lived in a small flat in London, and we were just dreaming big and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if we had this, we could do that, and da 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 da. And the fancy cars, of course. My husband is obsessed with cars. He's a petrol head. And, it was absolutely about the material things when we first got started. But as time goes on, and what we've come to realize now, and what would be really helpful for you to understand is it those things that are going to really make the difference to you? Or is it having the additional cash flow to be able to live how you want, to live freely? That's the difference. Something that's going to free you up from that 9 to 5 or whatever hours you work. Okay. So our story goes that I was a self-employed musician. My husband was a mature student. And when we really set about this path, my first goal was to own £1 million worth of property by the time I was 30. And 9 days before I turned 30, we owned £1 million worth of property. Didn't mean that we had £1 million worth of equity. It just that the portfolio value was £1 million, including mortgages. I hope you understand the difference. And we were thinking, wow, we've made it. It's fantastic. Da, 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 da. And the property that we'd put into the melting pot that tipped us over the edge of the million was a very fancy flat in near Canary Wharf, right near the Thames Barrier. And it was quite interesting because the celebrations didn't last for long, because that property was a bit of a noose around our necks. The cash flow that we received from that property was sometimes negative. I won't go into all the story now. Perhaps I will delve into that a little bit more somewhere down the line. But basically, it didn't end up being what we expected it to be. We didn't have the cash flow to sustain that property. It was more oftentimes negative than it was positive, because the area hadn't yet been developed to the way that we could see it being able to be developed. And so we actually had to end up letting go of that property because it was such a financial noose around our necks. And at that point, we sat ourselves down. I remember going to a local country park, and we sat ourselves down at the top of this hill and gave ourselves a jolly good talking to. And the reason that we did that, and the why we had to do that, was because we were so close to going under with that property. And we thought to ourselves, what the heck is it that we actually want from this property business? And we just said, right, it's the cash flow. It's all about the cash flow. We were enjoying the business. We were good at it. We loved property. So that was very, very important as well. But it wasn't about the multi-million pound portfolio. It was the cash flow that could set us free from having to work the rest of our lives. Okay. So that was really a turning point for us. Now, setting goals is fine and it's great and it's necessary. The thing is, are you setting the right goals? So when we turned it around from being about, having the fancy stuff and owning X amount of £1 million worth of property, and just sat ourselves down and said, actually, what we need is a really good, clear, I don't know, what was it, about £3,500 to £4,000 a month coming in from our property portfolio. That will mean we can do what we want. We're not beholden to anybody. Okay. So what I'm saying is, when you set a goal based on purely a big financial figure or a car or a house or a fancy thing, have you ever experienced that you've gone a certain way and it hasn't happened and you end up just being disappointed time and time again, perhaps because these things didn't manifest? That can be, part of the journey as well. They've always seemed to maybe been elusive to you, and therefore, because these things haven't happened, I know it certainly happened for us, we seemed to be plowing away, doing lots of work, and these things were just eluding us and we were making bad choices, and therefore feeling always a sense of lack, that you haven't achieved a certain thing by a certain point. And it can sometimes get quite disheartening is the word, that you haven't yet accomplished what you set out to accomplish, especially because it can take years to get to where you want to. So along the journey, you can kind of feel let down if you're not at the point that you think you'd like to be at at that, particular point in your life. So really the first question you need to ask yourself, just so that you can really make sure that you are setting out on this path in the best way possible. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is most important to you? And I would suggest that if it's that you are feeling constrained by your work-life balance, that the most important thing is to perhaps set yourself free from that. Don't be thinking of the big blingy things. Be thinking, okay, how can I make extra money? How can I enable myself to build up perhaps passive income, or maybe it's going to be active income in the form of a different kind of business that you far prefer to do. You still have to work for it, but it's going to bring you that cash in initially, and then you can filter that off into more passive investments and create passive income for yourself. So are you going to concentrate on that to enable that to come about? Really, that's the message that I'm talking about here. Because also, if you think about it, when you're concentrating on some of the more blingy things, these things all cost money. If you're at the point where you have a little bit extra each month, maybe, and you want to become financially free, then the last thing you need to be thinking about is spending a shed load on that big fancy house or car or holiday or whatever it is. Delayed gratification is one of the most important things that you can do in your wealth journey. It's one of the things that we sort of we held massive store by in the early days. We didn't even really realize that we were doing it. We just made a conscious choice. Okay, are we going to go and do this, like buy that nice car, or are we going to buy the next property, or are we going to go on a really fancy holiday, or are we going to buy the next property? We just carried on doing that until the point at which we could then go out and buy the nice car and have the fancy holiday, because we do those things now. Okay, we have got a lovely home, I've got my dream car, and we do go on lovely holidays and we can spend the time as we want. But that's only come about as a result of the delayed gratification and the focus and concentration on what was most important. So it was for us, we realized that what it was the ability to do with our time what we wanted. That was the most important thing. And so that was what we focused on. We didn't want to be beholden to anyone. Okay. We didn't want to be tied to anybody telling us what we had to do and when we had to do it. And that was our biggest driving force. So earlier on in the episode, I promised to you that I would help you to figure out a way of helping you to choose what was going to help you to get there. And the absolute key, is to align yourself with what is and what feels right to you to do. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having the dreams, having the visions of what it is you want, and then boiling it down to what is most important to you right now. And then to start off going about researching it. So if your idea is to develop cash flow, think to yourself, okay, what ways are there that I can create cash flow outside of the work that I do? Perhaps I'm just using that as an example because that is what most people come to us for, is the ability to free themselves and live in an abundant and, extraordinary life. So research different ideas and figure out what it is that you would love to do and what you feel you would be good at doing. Those are absolutely crucial. We didn't even realize in the early days that property was where it was at. It was so obvious. It was staring us in the face. All the alternative things I was thinking about alongside my music teaching career, my musical career, because mostly it was teaching with a bit of playing. And most of the other things I was thinking about were estate agent, letting agent, relocation agent. I was obsessed with the property, what was it called? The House Doctor, the Property Ladder. I was obsessed with all those programs in those early days in the 1990s. And it was just so staring us in the face that property was the thing. And we were always really interested in what property prices were in other areas that we went to on holiday and what have you. So it was staring us in the face. And actually, it was what we became really good at. And so that's what it is. You've got to have that feeling of what you'd love to do and what you could potentially be good at. And also, does it feel right to you? So you've got to have the head part in place, i.e., doing the right research and figuring out what strategies could help you accumulate cash flow and the life that you're looking for. So the research is important. That's the head. Then you've got to go down to the heart and feel, okay, what would I love to do? What lights me up? What makes my heart sing? What am I good at? What could I really tap into to enable this to express itself and come about in that way? So that's the heart. And then when you've chosen something and you've done the right research and it's just like gives you that good feeling, does it feel right in your gut? Does it give you that sense of, my God, this is the right thing to do? I just know this is the right thing for me to follow. So that's what I'm talking about, is the alignment, the head, the heart, and the gut alignment, which will help you to create that life that you're looking for and to develop that level of cash flow and to live free. So, the most important thing is to live the way that you want, to be concentrating on the things that are most important to you, to look after those around you in the process, and set yourself an example to try and just be the best that you can be in that process. And by doing that, naturally, these things will come about for you. You will develop it. You understand that going through life and going on this journey, the material things become less and less important. And the things that matter most come to the fore. My goals, our goals, have shifted and changed dramatically over the years. And it's a constant realignment. And it has been a phenomenal, fantastic journey. And I just wish you all the best to be able to live this life, this miracle that we call life, as best you possibly can. And on that note, I'll see you next time.